The following is a presentation of TFNN. The Power Trading Hour with your host, David White. Call now, toll free at 1-877-927-6648. Internationally at 727-445-1044. Now, David White.
And welcome to another exciting edition of the Power Trading Hour. 23rd. Yeah, that's right. It's another exciting edition of the Power Trading Hour with me, your humble, lovable, and squeezably soft host. As always, we like to come to you at this time.
The following takes place between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m.
And what do we have going on for today? Well, we're up 5.5 points on the S&P cash. Do we have any volume? And the answer is no. Of course, we haven't had much in the way of volume. We're going to look at that in a minute. Every day in the newsletter, I do publish all the volumes and the way that they come out, broken down in every conceivable way. Anyway, as we said, up 5 points today on the S&P cash. Volume is 1.77 billion shares as we start the show. So it's going to be a lightish day. We continue to see a handful of stocks kind of popping out here. We'll see whether or not these things can hold or do anything. We'll check back in with the IBB today and see if there's anything big in that one. But I will show you something that I liked in the charts today on it. What else do we have going on out here? I think that's about it. We're not moving much, and there is not much volume. We'll go back over some of it. But let's get this party started with a little bit of history.
That it's all just a little bit of history repeating.
It is history repeating on this day in 1912. Alan Turing, one of the greatest pioneers of modern computing and artificial intelligence, is born in Paddington district of London, England. A lot of people want to give him credit for breaking all the German codes. I will tell you that credit belongs to a ton of people, although movies and everything else try to make him kind of a single guy that developed the first code-breaking machine in Bletchley Park. He was not. He does deserve a lot of credit. We'll talk about why in a minute. But he worked with a lot of folks. In fact, if you want to talk about the people that probably get none, almost zero of the credit, you have to talk about the scientists who actually had already busted the German codes in Poland. They smuggled those machines out, and Turing and the rest of his bunch of people, they called them the Golf, Cheese, and Chess Society. These were all the, as they say in England, the boffins, kind of the nerds, I guess, is probably the best description of a boffin that there is. Anyway, they all got together and did a lot of it. But why he gets a lot of credit, and I have a feeling he got a lot of credit because he was very much, when he wanted to, could politic. And he did a lot of that with Winston Churchill, so Winston Churchill gave him a lot of the credit. In reality, after interviews with most of the people that worked there during the war starting in 1938, you probably really have to give the credit for the code-breaking machines to a man named Tommy Flowers, who was a very strange hero, unknown until the 80s, that worked for the British Post Office and made sorting machines for them before the war. He designed the first really programmable computer, the Colossus, and some other ones to help break German messages. And even though a lot of people want to give total credit to Turing for political and politically correct reasons, he did not. Now, the good part. After the war was over, he started writing papers about universal programmable machines. And these things were incredibly simple. The idea, of course, was to make these things just about as dirt simple as you could. He showed mathematically and in his documents how you could make these machines literally compute just about anything, all with 1 bit. So, well, 1 bit's good, more bits are better. And that really started the computer revolution, along with a lot of his papers on how these things should work, the interactions. So why this guy that made postal sorting machines had a good idea of how to design hardware, he had kind of a vision for computers that ran a lot farther. And again, I think that there's a couple of reasons why he gets a lot of undeserved credit during the Second World War. He gets some credit, but a lot of people try to give him all the credit. And if you had to cut it up, there were 3 gentlemen. Can't remember the third guy. I did go over to Bletchley Park and go through the museum that they have there. It's very nice, but you can go back and see how they did it. And of course, without getting interviews for a lot of the people that were involved there, you probably wouldn't get the right view, and certainly not Hollywood's view of him. But certainly the work he did on the universal Turing machine, his thoughts on what artificial intelligence would be one day, and kind of interesting that whether it was that paper written in 1948 or 49 is just now coming true today. And most of my spare time is spent on working on what he called artificial intelligence, but I think a much better description is machine learning. On this day in 1912, really the gentleman that came up with all the really important ideas of the way computers should work and act was bored by his mother. I was bored many times by my mother. Anyway, wanted to talk about volumes out here every morning in the newsletter. I've written a little program to take my database and dump it into a spreadsheet so I can put it in the newsletter, snooze letter, and pretty interesting. What do we have out here? Just wanted to go through the volumes very closely within New York Stock Exchange. As we said, I'm looking for something that's in the neighborhood of about 5 billion shares to really show that we've got some reason to think that there's a lot of movement on the upside in this market. That's on the NYSE. But as I said, I break it down, the NYSE, the AMEX, and of course, if you're looking at volumes out there, a lot of people don't spend any attention or time looking at the Amex, but it's becoming more and more important. The reason why, that Amex volume, for the most part, is about 90% of the ETFs. So if you're looking for that volume and trying to figure out of actual shares traded on individual companies and then stocks that actually are traded through and via ETFs, that can give you kind of a clue out there. Of course, even yesterday, the volume was just a little lighter on the NASDAQ. The total volume came in about 500 million lighter than the day before. We'll talk about what I really think is this total market dollars spent. It's really telling me that we just don't have a lot of juice left. We'll be back in a minute.
TFNN is excited about our new software charting program, The Art of Timing the Trade Charts. In collaboration with Tom O'Brien and using his best-selling book, The Art of Timing the Trade, Your Ultimate Trading Mastery System, David White has programmed an outstanding piece of software that will complement any trader's methodology. Using this first-of-its-kind program, The Art of Timing the Trade Charts allows you to scan thousands of stocks for Fibonacci formation setups, including Gartley's, ABC's, butterflies, and much more. The Art of Timing the Trade Charts is designed to help you when scouring the markets for stocks just beginning to form the trading patterns that many investors spend days, weeks, or even months searching to find. And right now, we're offering licenses available at only $79 a month. We are so confident that you're going to love this new charting software software that will even give you a 30-day unconditional money-back guarantee. Don't miss out on this incredible new piece of software. Get your copy of The Art of Timing the Trade Charts today by visiting TFNN.com.
Tiger TV is an exciting way to experience TFNN programming. See high-definition video giving you crystal clear charts, as well as seeing some of the faces of TFNN's highly acclaimed financial experts with crisp, full-fidelity sound. Catch Tom O'Brien, John Logan, Steve Rhodes, Basil Chapman, Larry Pesavento, Think or Swim, David White, Andy Hecht, and Daryl Martin in crystal clear, high-definition audio and video. Tiger TV, exclusively at TFNN.com. Platinum, grains, crude oil, gold, copper, cattle, hogs, gasoline, natural gas, coffee, cotton, cocoa, and sugar. These are just some of the commodities mentioned in the most recent issue of Andy Hecht's Techno-Mental Commodity Report. Andy publishes his weekly newsletter every Thursday morning, where he breaks down the commodity market and provides his subscribers with specific trading recommendations based on his trading methodology. By signing up for a free trial to the Techno-Mental Commodity Report, you'll get a full 30 days to try out this powerful newsletter service and see for yourself the types of trades Andy has recommended for his subscribers. When you sign up for a 30-day free trial, you're under no obligation to pay anything. And should you decide to continue, you will lock in the low rate of only $79 a month. Sign up right now for the Techno-Mental Commodity Report and make sure you're ready to catch the next big trade in commodities. For more information and to get started today, visit the front page of TFNN.com. Many of our new listeners have heard about the Tiger's Den, but wondered, what exactly is it? The Tiger's Den is a lively community where professional traders and investors can meet, exchange ideas and information in a comfortable, moderated atmosphere. Hear all of your favorite TFNN shows, plus see all the charts as they happen, live during those shows, and have access to all those charts. You can test drive the Tiger's Den, absolutely free, for 30 days. It will greatly enrich your knowledge of these markets. Details on the Tiger's Den are on the front page of TFNN.com. Dave takes your phone calls now. Toll free at 1-877-927-6648. Internationally at 727-445-1044.
And somebody mentioned something in the den. We'll talk about a few of these things. So on the Friday, maybe we'll not get to too many charts today, but we will talk about a few more of these things. But there's some great interviews and discussions about actually how everything worked and the machines behind Bletchley Park. If you just go to YouTube and type in Bletchley Park computer file, you'll find a bunch of the links to the people in some of the interviews and some of the people that actually worked there. And the machines working. They've rebuilt them all and everything else, but very interesting stuff. Much more interesting than bad sitcoms that I now have to seem to endure. We were talking about market volumes. Let's get through that real quick, and then we'll move on. As I said, I basically look at all the dollars traded each day and break them down by the major market, NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, and Amex too. So I get kind of a feel for what's happening. Of course, NASDAQ's tech, NYSE tends to be the S&P 500 kind of stocks. Now the Amex tends to be almost all the ETF dollars that are traded each day. So we can still see that that the Amex is not overwhelming the other two, but it's not any kind of fainting flower. There's still a lot of money. So yesterday we had 122, almost 123 billion in the NYSE stocks, almost 51 billion in the Amex, and in the Nasdaq just almost to 81 billion dollars. So we end up with about 254 billion yesterday. The day before, about 270 billion. But when we go back to the 16th, we see that we had 415 billion dollars. And a lot of times we start getting these down days like the 9th, we had almost $400 billion. So you can really see that if you buy a lot of expensive stocks, the shares generally should average out fairly well. But we can also look and see and try to divine from these numbers whether it's, and when you compare it to the volume, is it big caps or small caps, or maybe it's mid caps out there that everybody's playing and moving around on these days. But there's a lot more to just looking at volume than saying, hey, volume was bigger or lower. And I've been working on this for a while, but it comes in the newsletter every day. But kind of interesting to see the volumes, not only the share volumes, but the actual dollars spent each day. Okay, now we got a few things that people want to talk about. Let's get a chart up here for our engineer. It gets all wacky. It's kind of wacky, especially on Fridays. Two questions in the den. One is, what is my thought on quants moving the markets daily and the relative impact? It is fairly big, and that is that, in fact, did I talk about it? I can't remember if I brought the subject up. I'm going to be doing a couple of webinar, probably not describe them as webinars because I think they're going to be pre-produced. But I'm going to be doing two special events, and we'll be talking about those in the near future. But one's middle or late next month and middle or late in August. They're going to be split up for machine learning or artificial intelligence. The first one's going to be basically what you want to know about the companies involved in these and how everything works as a trader. The second one will be the results of all the stuff I've been working on for the last 2 years and start showing some of the stuff that I will start using on a daily basis to trade, and how I've made some tools that seem to be kind of in the edge of actual usability, something that work much, much better than ever before. So in quantum news out here, I didn't write about it in the newsletter, but I think maybe I wrote about it last week. That's what I did. But we'll talk about the quants. The beginning of my presentation starts out showing that there were some 600 traders at Goldman Sachs, equity traders in 2000. That number has dropped to about 2. Now, I'm going to say that again so you didn't miss it. If you want to talk about what's happening and who's really trading the market, it's computer programmers. They had 600 traders in 2000. They now have 2 for actual equities. Everything else is done and homogenized and pre-processed, and all they do is look at the data that a lot of these programming staff do work on them. A lot of it is machine learning these days. They had finance is one of these things where there's so much money to be made. They, long before anybody else can either afford it or spend the money to go see if it works, will do it on Wall Street. And if you have to say anything, it has to be Wall Street did blaze a lot of trails in machine learning. And that's exactly what we're seeing today. There is a handful of people, 2 at Goldman Sachs, that now control all the trading. All that trading is basically those guys deciding what to do at the very beginning of the day. They give the programmers what they want. The programmers massage maybe a little bit of what they're doing. And then the orders are put in. And everything else is computers fighting for the best price or best fill as they get in and out of the market. So if you're wondering intraday, if people are making a lot of money, the high-frequency traders have tended to drop a great deal. In fact, maybe that's what we should talk about here. I'll bring this chart back up. But the dark volume that I have listed here ends up being close to somewhere between 35 and 40% of the total market volume each day. These dark pools that are traded, that the big guys trade between themselves with, have no ability to get stepped up in front of by high-frequency traders. It just doesn't happen. In fact, many times the trades are not even reported for minutes after the trade actually happened. So you may not even see them on your data feed for minutes after it, but and that's allowed. It's legal. It's not illegal. But these dark pools or dark volume tend to be fairly high. And of course, the whole purpose of this is to get away from high frequency traders that are out there. But that also leaves 60% of the volume that still occurs on things like the NASDAQ and other ECNs and ETNs that allow people to get to it. So it becomes what used to be 25% is now some 40% of volume that you never see, or that you could never see executed. All you see is a minute or two later the stuff going through. And that it tends to be a lot different than just even a few years ago. So keep a look at that. We'll talk about quantum computing when we come back, and what I wrote about in my newsletter, the Tech Insider, last week. Pretty big thing happened. But again, high-frequency traders, intraday manipulation becoming less and less as more and more shares flow into these dark pools where these guys cannot be back.
The Path of Least Resistance is David White's daily trading newsletter, and if you're looking for active trading ideas, then now's a perfect time for a 30-day free trial to this powerful daily trading advisory service. David uses his years of trading experience to offer his subscribers his trading ideas each morning in his Path of Least Resistance newsletter. Using a combination of equity trades along with options, David keeps his subscribers up to date with all pertinent market information with intraday afternoon updates when warranted. Don't miss out on this great chance to get a 30-day free trial to David's daily newsletter, The Path of Least Resistance, with no obligation to pay anything. David has been delivering solid recommendations for his subscribers recently, and if you'd like to see the type of newsletter he delivers every morning, then visit the front page of TFNN and you'll find the Path of Least Resistance under Trading Newsletters. For all the details and to start your 30-day free trial today, log on to TFNN.com now. Will the S&P 500 continue to climb? For bold trades on U.S. large-cap stocks in either direction, trade SPXL, SPUU, or SPXS. Directions Daily S&P 500 Bull and Bear Leveraged ETFs. Direction Leveraged ETFs. An investor should carefully consider a fund's investment objective, risks, charges, and expenses before investing. A fund's prospectus and summary prospectus contain this and other information about Direction shares. To obtain a fund's prospectus and summary prospectus, call 866-476-7523 or visit directioninvestments.com. A fund's prospectus and summary prospectus should be read carefully before investing. An investment in the funds is subject to risk, including the possible loss of principal. The funds are designed to be utilized only by sophisticated investors such as traders and active investors. Distributor Foreside Fund Services, LLC. Has the current market volatility continued to stop you out of trades when the market spikes against you? Now is the perfect time to open up an account with Nadex. Nadex, the North American Derivatives Exchange, is a brand new, completely regulated Chicago-based exchange, and unlike most other exchanges, Nadex allows you to trade directly through them with direct market access when using their completely free trading platform, which also features real-time charts and full customization capability. One of the advantages of trading with Nadex in volatile markets is that your risk is always capped and you have the ability of keeping your trades open even when the market spikes against you. Nadex is completely brand new with a line of unique trading products that are unavailable anywhere else. See how it works at nadex.com. That's NADEX.com. Or click on the Nadex banner on the front page of TFNN.com. Futures and options trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for all investors.
This segment is brought to you by Think or Swim. For more information, just click the Think or Swim banner on the front page of TFNN.com.
And we talked earlier in the week. We'll get to some of the other questions here in just a second. We talked at Christmas how I thought GoPro was dead. Not much happening out here. Saw a lot of ads again this week. I've got a GoPro device that I ordered for Christmas presents, and they were about $36 with a ton of accessories. show you just everything, every attachment, everything else. This is in a waterproof housing already that's good to 100 feet. It's got, I think, 30 attachments, 2 batteries. Cost me $27. And I'm going to say this thing is 90% as good as a GoPro for 1/10 the cost. Man, it's tough to think how well these guys are going to do. But we'll see. Anyway, I actually bought this one for myself. But you don't see a lot going on out here. This thing's just kind of bouncing around. Again, this is like 35% perennially short. Not much volume out here. 714 is this last low. But the Amazon guy just brought that to my door at the break. So fairly interesting. But yeah, imagine, I never thought the cameras would be this cheap. Can you imagine that? A waterproof camera, everything you need, I think besides the memory chip in it, for $27 with a ton of things and 2 batteries. Anyway, we'll talk more about that later. Questions in the den. What do you think about quantum computing? Everybody's into it right now. Wrote about probably the biggest thing in quantum computing last week was that the Chinese were able to use a satellite and entangle photons from the satellite to 2 different ground stations. Why they can't communicate quite yet, a lot of people in theory say that it's impossible. I think that it's going to be kind of one of those Kobayashi Maru Star Trek things where someone's going to figure a way to get around some of the laws of physics and make it happen. But what they are doing is transferring the quantum states back and forth from that satellite so that they can share keys. Of course, by doing that, no one else could use the same key without messing up the entanglement of the 2 photons. If you're not familiar with this stuff, it's called spooky action at a distance. And Einstein was talking about this stuff in the 20s and 30s. But literally, you can take a entangled electrons or photons and go across the galaxy. You move one, the one on the other side of the galaxy, instantaneously, not at the speed of light, instantaneously will move on the other side. There's some thought in the reasons why that you can't actually communicate this way, but my guess is that they will find a way around that sooner rather than later. And of course, probably the internet will actually be some kind of entangled photons or electrons in some future device. But they're able to do that. The Chinese are literally able to do that now and move encryption keys back and forth. Easy way to do it, and also a very secure way. And nobody's come up with any ideas on how to break it. So theoretically, you could be changing keys fairly quickly via satellite connection. We'll say between what China's doing is between its embassies and its home office, so that those evil Americans, can't eavesdrop on them and break their codes. Theoretically, it is impossible to break it. But of course, a lot of people have thought codes have been unbreakable before. This one's going to be probably 100 or 1,000 times harder to break than anything else that we've seen before. But quantum computing basically is all about that. That is entangling a couple of electrons or photons and being able to manipulate them very quickly. The idea is that where if you change a bit in a traditional computer, you either have a 1 or a 0. The idea behind all this is that you could have 1, 0, and a bunch of numbers in between all of those at the same time. And you could compute that way. So normally in computers, you have to do something like, if you're going to add 1 to each number before it, you go 1 plus 1, then you go 1 plus 1 plus 1. Now you got 3. Well, you have to do that serially. You have to do one operation into the next operation into the next operation. With quantum computing, you could say what's anything between 0 and 1 times anything between 0 and 1, and instantaneously you'd have the answers for everything. And this is really a big issue when it comes into breaking cryptography and keys. So I can assume that anything that's been in cryptography that's been, encoded can be decoded in a few years, or if not already, by the NSA. I'm sure they've been working on this for years. But the other idea is actually using it for things like trying every drug combination to cure cancer. If you're the UPS company and you want to know the quickest way for your drivers to get to 50 or 100 locations today, that's one of the things that, that shouldn't be a tough question to answer, right? Well, it actually becomes incredibly hard to predict, because each time you add another location, then, of course, you have to figure out all the interactions of the previous 50 locations that you'd already made a map to go to them. And it's called a traveling salesman problem. It's been around for a long time. But any problem where you have a lot of different numbers that might be the right answer, these things, instead of trying each one, which is brute force, you could literally try all of them at the same time. And it makes basically calculations almost instantaneous that would have taken thousands and sometimes millions of years, even for the fastest computers we have now. They're not useful for all problems, but they do well. So the problem right now that everybody has is making sure these things stay entangled. And even the Chinese thing, it breaks the entanglement, which means that everything that you send encrypted is lost to time and will never be encrypted again. Eventually, if you can keep these things, if you don't jiggle them too much, think of it as trying to hold two pieces of sweaty dynamite in each hand. If you drop one of them, it blows up. These things are incredibly susceptible to breaking that if they are moved, if the temperature changes, if there's too much acceleration. It's quite a feat that the Chinese got theirs up there in space. And once it's up there, not a lot going to change on it, but even things like just the sun going behind the Earth, the temperature changes, there's a lot of things that can break that. So these things are probably, if I had to guess, in 20 years, your internet connection is going to come across it. It's going to be some box over in the corner with a little refrigerator keeping these things at, minus 400 degrees Kelvin or something. And you'll be able to transfer instantaneously, even faster than the speed of light. That's just a thought. We'll be back.
If you're an active trader looking for that extra edge when it comes to trading and investments, then now is a great time to get a 2-week free trial to Tom O'Brien's daily market letter, Market Insights. Tom O'Brien's daily newsletter, Market Insights, comes out every market day at around 9:30 a.m. and provides Tom's daily commentary on the broad market, including the Dow, NASDAQ, and S&P, plus specific trade recommendations. There's even an update published most afternoons to keep you informed about the day's market activity. He'll give you the entry price, price target, and stop price of each stock and option trade. With Market Insights, there's nothing left to guessing. For all the details and to get your 2-week free trial to Market Insights started today, visit TFNN.com.
Today, it's hard to tell if the economy is coming or going. Regardless, I want my money going in the direction I choose. If that's your stance as well, then you want to know how Everbank can help keep your money thriving just the way you want. Is growing your money a priority? Everbank is committed to a yield pledge promise to pay high yields on your checking, money market, and CD balances. Looking to diversify? Everbank ingeniously developed accessible ways to spread your money around the world into foreign currencies and even non-FDIC insured metals. And when it comes to your wealth, they bring a highly experienced and global perspective to help you manage it. Everbank's financial philosophy flies in the face of the status quo. They believe your money's performance should not be determined by today's economic circumstances, but by the drive to rise above them and create opportunities that favor your objectives. If that excites you like it does me, visit everbank.com/TFNN to find out what they can do for you. Again, that's everbank.com/TFNN. Visit them today. Everbank is a member FDIC and equal housing lender.
TFNN is excited to offer a brand new piece of market scanning software unlike anything the industry has ever seen. John Logan and his team have spent years developing their market profile tools to finally be able to release the TAS Profile Scanner Plus. And right now, you can get a 2-week trial absolutely free just by visiting TFNN.com and providing us your name and email address. The TAS Profile Scanner Plus is the premier market profile-based scanner in the industry. Powered by the acclaimed TAS proprietary algorithms, this feature-rich scanner is a standalone desktop software that instantly filters over 2,500 global financial markets such as stocks, ETFs, commodity futures, and Forex. Within 3 minutes of signing up, you can have the software downloaded and running on your computer with a complete roadmap of market indicators and inflection points to trade off using the TAS Profile Scanner Plus. Sign up today and try this amazing piece of software by visiting TFNN.com.
This segment is brought to you by TFNN. Test drive all the newsletters for free at TFNN.com.
Again, volume fairly quiet on the Western front. We're just up a little less than 4 points on the S&P cash. Still haven't turned 2 billion shares on the NYSE. So we'll keep an eye on that. But not much happening out here. Just seeing a lot of stocks being driven up and down in light volume. So I don't think that there's much to be made out here. Again, just 1.96 billion shares. Had a question also in the den, so we'll just kind of make this a Tech Friday. Have your questions come in at 877-927-6648, or you can email me at path@tfnn.com. Question was, how does Ethereum vary from Bitcoin? And I think the biggest thing is, well, besides the ownership, Ethereum's ownership is fairly easy to figure out. But Ethereum is much more like the New York Stock Exchange. And one of the things that you figure out about the stock exchange, they've really had some time with the with the NYSE guys to figure out when trading goes into chaos with those flash crashes. And they've put in things like the circuit breakers, other things before they get into chaotic motion. My guess is that Ethereum didn't have any of those safeguards. And a lot of times you only find those safeguards after something has happened. You don't know what you don't know if you're a programmer. But again, my understanding of Ethereum is it's much more like the NYSE in that, you know, there's a single controlling body compared to like all the ECNs with, you know, all the different places you can trade stock. It's kind of a single entity instead of a pool of people all electronically trading against each other in all the ECNs. So it is a single entity where kind of the Ethereum is a single entity, where Bitcoin tends to be a lot more like the board. It's all these separate entities that have kind of all come together. And like I said, I think the blow up in it is kind of the exact same thing you saw in the NYSE, mostly because those things weren't in. After the flash crash, although they lied out their teeth about what caused it and what it did, they did hire a lot of mathematicians, and these mathematicians were very scoped in chaos theory. And one of the things that you find out, there's a bunch of videos and what am I going to say, documentaries about chaos theory that you can catch on YouTube. But what you will find out about chaos theory, not really well named, is that it's kind of like water being boiled. As the temperature raises until it starts boiling, you can put in watercolors. There's lots of models that show it. it's actually kind of ordered fairly well. But at some point, the water starts to boil, and all the water moves very chaotically and cannot be predicted in the way that it moves fairly easily. But there is a pattern that makes in the data, and it looks like little butterfly wings. And kind of one of the reasons why the people talk about the butterfly effect or the butterfly stuff is literally when you get the data out and you look at it, it's maybe I'll find a picture of it here during the break, but it looks like butterfly wings, a lot of circles. Just imagine kind of two kind of oblong circles going around. It looks like just two butterfly wings coming up there. And you find out that chaos is predictable, sort of. But there's a point where you go from standard predictable motion to something that is kind of unpredictable about which way the thing's going to go. And a lot of people don't think chaotic systems are predictable. They are, but they're so wildly, they are so wild that you just can't react to them fast enough to make a difference. But there's some good YouTube things on there. You just put butterfly effect in, I think you'll find a lot of those PBS ones on there. They talk a lot about the original guy that actually came up with the theory and why it got the name the butterfly effect. It had nothing to do with what he did. He was giving a speech, and he didn't give the guy that was promoting the speech anything, so he just grabbed one of his papers and started writing stuff down. He didn't know what it really meant. And part of it in there was kind of a tongue-in-cheek reference to if a thunderstorm occurs or if a butterfly flaps its wings in South America, does a tornado happen in Texas? And that's kind of where the whole thing comes in. But the reference to the butterfly is just what happens after you go from standard relative normal action. And I guess in the case of the water, it just starts boiling. And that's what you have in these things like flash crashes. They literally get to a state that no one's seen before, a boiling point, and it becomes incredibly tough in the very short term to predict where anything's going. But it does tend to make some really big movements. And they've shown this time after time. Those videos are very good on YouTube about it. But it'll give you an idea why stock markets and things like Ethereum go nuts from time to time. And anyway, after the NYSE looked at all this data, they got all these experts back in there. That's where they started keep moving those circuit breakers smaller and smaller until the problem went away. And actually, it's kind of the equivalent of water boiling on a stove. You just take it off, right? The heat's gone, it cools down. But why we don't see more of this in the stock market? Because they do turn it off every once in a while. Everybody gets a chance to calm down. There's a lot of discussion about going to 24-hour trading. And most of the SEC people that have listened to the mathematicians tell them that we would have a flash crash every day if we did that. And one of the reasons why they tend to don't want 24-hour trading all the time. Okay, let's take Fridays. Okay. The sheep human chimera. I don't know if that's true or not. I just thought it was. I have a feeling it's a fraud. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the sheep human hybrid, otherwise known as a chimera in biological stuff. Anyway, we're up 3.5 points. Volume is just turned at 2 billion shares. We're going to start looking at some of the stocks that are moving out here. Apple kind of going up a little bit into the weekend. But again, are you going to get any volume out of this thing? We'll wait for the end of the day for it. But my guess is it was going, and we've talked about how we like this thing going about 149. I think that's where this thing's going to run into a brick wall. certainly we're up on no juice today, just 12.7 million shares so far. When we get back, we'll talk about the IBB. There's kind of a very interesting point in it. If you were long this thing, I would probably take cash, and I will point out why when we return.
Tom O'Brien's weekly gold letter, The Gold Report, gives complete and concise coverage of the entire gold market. Inside, you'll get Tom's commentary on gold, the dollar, the rand, the bond, the XAU, the HUI, and detailed coverage of nearly 25 mining stocks. He'll give you the entry price, price target, and stop price of each stock trade. The Gold Report is a long-term newsletter where the focus is on building real wealth through the management of a successful portfolio of gold stocks. With a lifetime of knowledge and almost 12 years of writing his informative weekly newsletter, The Gold Report, Tom O'Brien can provide you with the important market information to help you make better trades in the gold market. Don't let the next bull run in gold pass you by. To get a month-long free trial to The Gold Report, an $85 value, visit the front page of TFNN.com today.
David White's newsletter, The Technology Insider, is focused like a laser on finding the next big things in technology. If you had invested only $10,000 in Microsoft in 1986, you'd have been a millionaire by 2000. Disruptive technology like Microsoft's is the key to these massive long-term profits, and the Tech Insider is the vehicle from TFNN to capitalize on these opportunities. This is the go-to newsletter that identifies, monitors, and profits on mostly little-known cutting-edge companies with great long-term prospects. David's experience is as an inventor of Emmy-winning animation products for TV and Hollywood that propelled a company public. Match that with 14 years as a full-time trader, and he's uniquely qualified to guide you through the light-speed world of ever-evolving high-tech. If you're ready to ride the next big technology bull market for less than $40 per month, log on to TFNN.com and get your 2-week free trial to the Technology Insider. Get in on the ground floor of the next big thing today.
Hi, I'm Steve Rhodes, host of the Trader's Edge, heard daily at TFNN.com and author of Mastering Probability, a daily investment and trading newsletter service that I send out each morning by 8 a.m. My morning newsletter service covers exactly what the markets have been doing since last night's close, providing you with an edge on your trading day ahead. You get actionable trading ideas, including the exact entry, stop, and profit targets. Plus, I'll teach you the patterns and hidden market correlations that will make you a better trader. As a subscriber, you'll gain access to my 90-minute money management workshop, where I'll teach you the secrets that'll save your assets. The bottom line, I've got your back, including a 30-day money-back guarantee. See for yourself the type of analysis I provide each trading day by signing up for Mastering Probability today. With nothing to lose, this is an offer you should not pass on. Mastering Probability can be found under Trading Newsletters on the front page of TFNN.com.
Catch Tom O'Brien, professional trader and educator, founder of TFNN. Also, a special guest on CNBC. Tom will bisect and dissect the markets. The Tom O'Brien Show, next on TFNN.
Yeah, the guy that talked about the butterfly effect, it was basically a tongue-in-cheek thing that he was telling to a bunch of nerds who were listening to his speech. He never thought anything would actually be made of it. But, of course, the promoter of the event where he was speaking put that in there and then sent that out to the news media where it went around the world before anybody could stop it. It's an interesting idea and let a lot of people know about something they probably would have never known about. But he never, ever said that that's actually what could happen. Said that, yeah, there is friction in the world. Wanted to look at the IBB out here. We're not, if you're long this thing, it basically did what I thought for a while it should, which is come fit in about half of this. Let's go back out here. We need a little longer there. Maybe it's one more. There it is. There's a double gap, and we've talked on the show of just how many times these double gaps have ended up being massive resistance out here. And that's where I was thinking that this would be about the upside for the IBB on a breakout. Still haven't got any signal on whether this is a confirmed head fake higher. You basically had all that range. It finally broke out higher in that narrowing and lower volatility range going back really almost till March. So we've broken out of it. We've gone back up, but we've gone right back up to this gap that goes back to the 6th of December of the 6th of January in 2016 when this thing gapped down, and that's where you start seeing this thing now finally coming up to that level. But that's where all the destruction has. You have a lot of people in these stocks that are still on the losing side of it. You've had your pop out here. What you would look at out here and be very wary of is any real drop back lower in this. But I'll zoom into this thing so you can actually see. We went right into that double gap. It went to about, 80% of the high of this thing, closed back under it. We're right under it today with low volume. As this thing, or if this thing starts to roll back over underneath the 3x3, I think that's where you could see this thing fail and go back down to the 240 level. I've been speculating, although I don't have any positions yet, that when we see these things roll over, that we are going to see these moves back down to previous lows. I just haven't got a confirming signal on them yet, although the volume has been pathetic, kind of on the way up for a lot of these. So we'll continue to keep a look at it. Question about in the email about Microsoft. I haven't looked at that today. Again, I don't think there's anything new out here other than this thing has closed above on light volume. We're going to have just 11.8 million shares so far. Of course, we want to be looking at the 9th on a lot of these tech stocks when everything fell apart on it. But basically up with 11.8 million shares into this candle that had 49 million shares. So we're up here on light volume. Now, the question I have going into the weekend here is I'll probably not do anything. We'll look next week. But can they just hold this thing sideways all the way through next Friday and into the long weekend? Now, that's the question. We'll see. But I think this market is very nervous out here, even as kind of sideways as this thing's moving. But I think I said it last week. I'm not worried about higher prices. I'm worried about decay in these leveraged products if I sit on them. And I want to wait until the right time to pull the trigger on those triples and the options and everything else. I don't see a lot to the upside. I see a lot market that's kind of stuck. Maybe that's the best they can do through a week from today. See you next week.
Larry Pesavento has just started his brand new service, Fibonacci 24/7, and he's already delivering content to his subscribers on a daily basis when the market's opened and even on weekends. Each Monday, you'll receive Larry's written report that provides detailed commentary and a summary on the charts and videos that Larry sends out. And throughout the week, when warranted, Larry will send out via charts or videos or both the key markets that he is watching during the day. This will be up-to-the-date, active trading information that will help you in your daily trading. In Larry's first week alone, he sent out 25 charts, 6 videos, and a full report to his subscribers in just 1 week. If you're a technical trader that uses patterns and retracements to trade, then Larry's service Fibonacci 24/7 is something that you must try. Right now, new subscribers can get a full 30-day money-back guarantee. With nothing to risk, sign up now to Larry Pesavento's Fibonacci 24/7 by visiting the front page of TFNN.com under Trading Newsletters.
You're watching Tiger TV.